Wednesday, February 6th edition of the Carolina Weather Video. I'm meteorologist Matthew East here with you. Our temperatures pretty chilly during the 5 a.m. hour with readings in the 30s in many spots in the mountains, foothills, and Piedmont. You get into some 40s down toward the Sandhills and coastal parts of the region, even 52. In Charleston, the radar is quiet all around our area, but rain already beginning to break out back into Texas with our next storm system. Let me show you how this is going to unfold for us. An area of low pressure developing there off the Texas coast as we go through the day. That will lift pretty steadily off to the east-northeast. Sunshine for us today, a beautiful day. But notice as we get into tomorrow afternoon, that rain spreading through Georgia into South Carolina, southern North Carolina, and then a soaker sets up across the Piedmont tomorrow evening into tomorrow night. And notice some of those winter weather contours in parts of the mountains and foothills and certainly up into parts of the Virginias. More on that in just a second. And it sure looks like this system is going to wind up being a big-time winter storm for a good chunk of the Northeast, including the big cities for the I-95 corridor, New York, Boston. This could even turn into maybe some blizzard conditions depending on how strong this low-pressure area gets. Now let's look at rain amounts with this system. Again, it's going to be a generous rain producer here. Looks like across much of the region. And temperatures, it's going to be a pronounced cold air damming episode here. So notice the temperatures as this event unfolds as we get into tomorrow night. Many Piedmont spots down into the 30s. So close if you're wanting winter weather, but it looks like for the Piedmont, not quite cold enough. But, again, the mountains and the foothills, maybe even the northern foothills, could see a little bit of wintry precip involved with this. The RPM modeling here is very aggressive with snow totals there. Well, you saw that very quickly. See if I can back that up for you. And let me show that again here real quick. And again, notice the RPM very aggressive with some of these snow totals up in the mountains and then especially up into the Virginias too. It's one of the colder models. And even a little bit of that wintry precip making it into places like Wilkes and Surry County on the RPM. Now, it's by far the coldest model, but something to keep an eye on as we head toward tomorrow night. All right, here's what this looks like on the modeling. Here we are today on the European upper air chart, and really the players with this next storm system really show themselves pretty nicely as we get on into tomorrow evening. You have one southern branch piece of energy right there and a pretty good piece of energy in the northern branch there. And watch what happens. If you want to watch sort of a textbook case of phasing, just watch this on the European model. 72 hours, there you go. Still two separate pieces of energy. This is Friday evening, and then by 12 hours later, bam, there it goes. One powerful consolidated system that only gets stronger from there as you head on out further in time. So, at the surface, here's the result on the European. Let's go out to the 48-hour chart. And there we go. This is tomorrow evening, and it is a very well-pronounced cold air damming signature with this system. So there's your surface low over South Georgia tomorrow evening. You go 6 hours later, that low pressure moves to coastal South Carolina. 6 hours later, that's sitting over southeastern North Carolina. And I think for much of the Piedmont, the foothills, the upstate, temperatures are just going to be a little bit too warm for wintry precip. I know that's sort of a painful system here for winter weather lovers. It's taken a pretty favorable track for some snow or wintry precip in parts of the region. You even have cold air damming, but it's just not quite cold enough in most spots, though, like I showed you on Stormcast a little bit earlier. Now, as we got to 72 hours, watch this system really begin to crank, and the European is really the most aggressive with this in the northeast U.S. There is Friday evening. We go 12 hours later to Saturday morning, and man, I mean, this is a huge winter storm for much of the northeast. Probably a crippling snowstorm on the European for the big cities there in the I-95 corridor, New York and Boston. Maybe even some blizzard conditions if the European scenario especially is correct. Now, again, for the Carolinas, it's Thursday evening and Thursday night when the steadiest precip falls. Let me show you some surface temperatures here. This is the European surface temperature map, and again, it's just not quite cold enough for wintry precip. Here is the GFS surface temperatures, a little colder, but still not quite there for the Carolinas, again, outside of the mountains. And the Canadian is very much the same as well. Now let's go further out in time to next week. Sort of a complex setup here. This is some changes with the most recent run of the European with how it handles things next week. This is Monday evening, and then all the way out to Wednesday, a much different type of setup than what we saw in some previous runs. The GFS and the Canadian sort of similar to the earlier runs, and so again, I'm just going to throw this out there and say there's a lot of uncertainty with how things unfold as we get into next week. The GFS does handle things differently. Let's look at the upper levels. Monday on the GFS, we go out to Valentine's Day. Then you get another piece of energy swinging through. The Canadian is even different from that. So there, who knows exactly at this point how the details of next Monday through Thursday will unfold. There's going to be some good rain chances from time to time. And that's about all I can say at this point. There's a lot of uncertainty still to iron out. Down the road, still some good indications of sort of an interesting pattern on the GFS model. This is out at 288 hours, and again, what I think we're looking at later in the month is a lot of cold air around and probably an active southern branch. So this is the evening of the 17th. One system moving in a little bit later out. This is the evening of the 20th. Another system moving in. So winter weather fans, certainly not time to give up, as there are at least the chances of additional winter weather producing systems later down the road. One final chart. This is the 8 to 10 day mean, the average, European on the left, GFS on the right. And again, that ridging really building, especially on the GFS. That's not a bad looking pattern setting up at all, and we'll just kind of have to see how the details iron out. I'm not saying everybody's going to get some snow before winter's out, but I'm saying that the pattern doesn't look terrible as we get later in the month. All right, that's it for today. Have a wonderful day, and God bless.